church, the roof leaked like a sieve. And that was what was creating part of the problem over here. So that had to be fixed right away. So in 1979, little by little, a group of about 5 men formed. They came in, they met with an aging priest here. His name was Father Filipiak. Father Filipiak lived back in the rectory here. It was even in sorrier shape than the church was. But he refused to leave. He was offered a comfortable retirement, but he thought by leaving it would accelerate the demise of the church. The Archdiocese had wanted him to abandon the church. And he was frequently heard saying, I'd die for this church. Well, he met with these 5 men and a whole host of them, and no more than a couple of dozen other people, and they formed the Friends of the Shrine into a not-for-profit corporation. You know, where you can give money and take it off your taxes. In 1979, after these men formed a corporation and wanted to work with Father Filipiak on trying to restore the church, Father Filipiak was murdered in the back of the rectory, in his bedroom. September 29, 1979, some 36 years ago. 3 men broke in and stole some personal items belonging to him and tried to sell those, and that's how they all got caught. What this did, though, was it garnered support for saving the shrine, because it was all over the news, the TV, the radio, and everything. But here was a priest trying to save his church, and all of this information about the shrine came out, and lots of non-Catholics as well as Catholics wrote letters to the Archdiocese asking them to find some way to save the shrine after this murder occurred. And then 6 months after that, St. Louis got a new archbishop, and he looked at the issue of what to do with the shrine. You have to understand, during those times, the shrine's parish was gone. No one was here anymore. There was no more than about 20 people here on a given Sunday. The laughing stock of the church back in those days was we had more religious pigeons in here than we did people. So, Archbishop John May was his name. He said, okay, and he made a rather bold and innovative decision back in those days. He decided to grant to our organization in 1980 complete financial stewardship of the shrine, where they would maintain all religious control, provide a priest, make all religious decisions, and we will run the restoration. And so he decided he would give us a chance. I don't know that there were very many people that gave us a ghost of a chance back in those days. It was just such a challenging uphill battle to restore this dirty, filthy church that had cracks in it and all kinds of things wrong with it. But structurally, it was all right. So we began in 1980 to take over financial control, but we had precious little money. And so from 1980 to 1985, when we started stewardship of the shrine, we began to start taking donors' money and putting it in the bank, but not doing anything with it. We figured about $500,000 to get started. Okay. So what happened at that point was we got a lot of donated work from labor unions that came in and did all kinds of infrastructure items. Things you don't see, like hundreds and hundreds of feet of new electric wiring. Those 2 bathrooms back there. Concrete work down in the lower level, the handicap ramp. These 2 doors here were completely shot. All kinds of things labor unions came in and did. And then by 1985, we figured we had about enough money to get started to actually restoring the inside of the church. And our architect was just finishing up the restoration of the governor's mansion in Jefferson City. He knew the right artisans to bring in, and they began a 10-year project, on and off, not all the time, but on and off, 10 years to restore what you see around you here. Okay. Now, we were finished in 1995, 10 years during that period. During that period, there was scaffolding up somewhere, all the time, nonstop. Okay, let's stop right there for a minute and let me tell you just a little bit about what you're looking at right here. This is known as the Altar of Answered Prayers. It was put in place, if anybody's good at Roman numerals, you can see up there on the right, Anno, the year 1866.
Would you say that again? Because I was wondering how...
1866 is the year that altar was put in place.
M is... Yeah,
Yes.
M is 1,500.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about the parts of the altar, but before I do that, I'd like to tell you why it was known as the Altar of Answered Prayers. In the summer of prior to 1866, there was a big cholera epidemic in St. Louis. St. Louis had many cholera epidemics, but this one, at this church, there were 10 to 25 funerals every single day. Finally, the priest gathered everybody together at the end of Mass. This altar wasn't here then. The building was here, but that altar was not there. He said to them, let's make a vow to the Lord that if we could be spared of any more deaths due to cholera, we will build a fitting monument in honor of St. Joseph. And everybody signed a vow stating that they would do that. From that Sunday on, nobody or anyone in their family who signed the vow died of cholera. That's what the record shows. So they all decided to pitch in $1 a piece, and they built this organ, this altar here. It was actually, they had accumulated $4,000, and when the altar came in, it was $6,131. So they had to try to get another $2,000, which they did, in order to erect the altar. Of course, $6,000 to us doesn't seem like much today, does it? But back then, that was a lot of money. You know, inflation. We all know about inflation. Okay. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the altar. I'm going to go from the top all the way down the middle of it. If you look at the very top of the altar, you see the angel with the black cross. That represents faith on the right side. The angel with the anchor of hope. And in the middle is a depiction of Sacred Heart of Jesus, our love or charity. So you have the representations of faith, hope, and charity at the top. Now, it's a little hard to see, but underneath that you see there's a Latin inscription, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam. That's the Jesuit motto, meaning to the greater glory of God. That's also on the outside of the church, all the way across. That's the Jesuit model. This was a Jesuit church. It was begun by the Jesuits actually at St. Louis University. Now if you look down underneath that, you'll see the shield of the Holy Name, the letters IHS, an early spelling of Jesus' first three letters between the two pink angels. Then you see another Latin inscription underneath that, Ite, ad, Joseph, or in other words, go to Joseph. You see that there below that? And then go to Joseph. Go to Joseph for your needs, your petitions, your prayers. Then underneath Ite, ad, Joseph is Joseph and the boy Jesus. Here we have Jesus depicted in an unusual manner as perhaps an 8 or 9-year-old boy, rather than as an infant or an adult. Then underneath that, you see a dome and the golden crown indicating or symbolizing the golden crown of Jesus Christ the King. Then the upper tabernacle and the lower tabernacle, you're in between the posts that are highlighted a little brighter than everything else. And then if you look all the way down through the communion table here, you see the lamb is the white animal, the Lamb of God, resting on the tomb of a martyr. The interesting thing about this church, we have professors of art who come in here all the time, is so many of these items that I just went through, and including others as you look around, I want you to realize these are all hand carved. Hand carved. Now, to the left of Joseph is St. Ignatius. St. Ignatius was a founder of the Jesuits. To the right, St. Francis Xavier, the one holding the black crucifix. He was a world traveler. I think he went all the way to China. He was an early follower of St. Ignatius. Now, if you look at the 4 pillars across the top, on the left, these are all the major New Testament gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, and then on the right side, Luke and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You see over between Luke and John, it says ex voto. On the right side over here, ex voto. That means out of a vow. That's the vow that I was telling you about of the parishioners made of being spared of the cholera. Now, if you look up at the very top, you have these colossal paintings with the Blessed Mother in the center, entering into heaven, ascending into heaven. To her right, St. Anne and her father, St. Joachim. To her left is Abraham and David, the one with the harp.
Who's the one next to her? The one to the left of her?
Abraham and David.
I knew David.
Those were in bad need of restoration. We had to have an artisan who really was profoundly blessed with being able to mix colors, because it was just like a painting. Okay, so that's the altar. Now, this altar over here, the one I was telling you about with the 9-year-old boy, these are all martyrs of the church. He's at the bottom. To the left of the Blessed Mother is St. Agnes, St. Cecilia, and to the right, you may not be able to see that one, is St. Agnes. Both of these girls also are martyrs. They died at an early age, I think around 12 years old, for their Christian beliefs. But what I want you to take a look at is, notice in the middle, the Blessed Mother statue. Can you tell that that's behind glass? Can you see that? There's an interesting story about that I want to tell you about real quickly. That statue that's behind glass was the only item in this whole church that was never restored. We had to restore everything else, including all of the 52 pieces of religious art that we have in here. But we didn't touch that one. That statue was originally meant for the Notre Dame Cathedral in downtown Paris, France. In Paris, there's a cathedral called the Notre Dame. The company that carved that statue could not get that statue up to Paris due to the political situation and the unrest in Europe in the early 1870s, and due to the Franco-Prussian War. They could not get that statue up there. Meanwhile, the Jesuits had ordered a statue from the same company, but a much, much cheaper one. Are you following me? The company said to the Jesuits, "We have this one already carved. It's a much nicer statue, much higher quality than the one you would have ordered. We will sell it to you for the cheaper price of the one we were going to do." So, okay. And the Jesuits got that in St. Louis and they uncrated it. It was so unbelievably beautiful. They decided to put that behind glass. And to our knowledge, that glass has never, ever been broken. It's a much higher quality statue than any of the others that we have in here. Over here is the Jesuit altar. These were all young men who were studying to be priests, but they died at an early age. St. Aloysius is the one in the middle, in the white. And a couple you may not be aware of, St. John Birchman's on the left and St. Stanislaus on the right. Underneath is an artist's depiction of Jesus in the tomb, in the sepulcher. Okay.